Hi, it's Ellen Violette here, and today I'm going to talk about people who decide they want to write a book, but they don't know how to get started, or they think they do know how to get started, but they're not doing it the right way. So, which is what I should have said in my title, but I didn't. So, I'm telling you now. So what most people do is they'll start writing a title because they just come up with something that sounds interesting to them. Or they'll just start writing and they don't have a map of where they're going and they don't know what they're doing, but they just write because they have something they want to say. And the problem with that is that it doesn't work very well for a whole lot of reasons, and I'm going to explain in a little bit. But hi, Veronica. But the first thing that I want to say is that I see a lot of people that are in the book expert space, and I'm just amazed at how many people don't talk about really the secret to doing this right and to making it a bestseller and to selling a lot of books. And it kind of breaks my heart for all kinds of reasons that I'm going to go into. But the conversations that I've had with people, one is that, like some book coaches want to teach people how to write a book and they just don't want to be bothered with the marketing. They don't understand it, they don't like it, they don't want to do it, and they just teach people to write a book. Other people that I've seen teach people how to find their passion, but they don't connect it to, is that what the market wants? Is that what people want to buy? And how are you connecting to it? Are you connecting emotionally? Are you getting their attention? Does it make them want to take the next step? And is it even worth pursuing? Oh, hi Frank. So that's, those things are really important. So I want to go through some reasons why it doesn't work. And I had written this all out, and then I don't know what I did with it. So anyway, okay. But this is what I do have. So you want to make sure that it's a topic that people want. Okay, so I once had a couple of clients in a week where they wanted to write about being, at that point, fearless. And at that point, there were not a lot of books. I don't know if there are now, but there were not a lot of books at the time on that. And when we did the research, it just showed that that wasn't what people were interested in. They were interested in how to become less fearful. They were interested in finding more courage. But see, that just shows you that you have to look at how are people approaching the subject. And it has to be the right way. So I don't know if I said this starting out, but really the secret is doing the research first. Marketing and visibility research. Okay, so that's what you have to do. And you want to find a title that hasn't been done before. Okay, that's another thing, Sometimes I'll go into Kindle and I'll be doing research for some of my clients, and what they've done is, even if they have done the research, they've gone and they've figured out that there's a certain phrase, let's say, that does well, and then they'll start all calling their book that phrase. And one that comes to mind to me is, it was something about happiness was one, or the other one is how to be happy. So how to be happy always has done better, at least when I've looked it up, than happiness. And other people have looked it up and they see that, and so there's all these books called How to Be Happy. Well, how are you going to stand out from this crowd if your book is called How to Be Happy and there's 40 other books called How to Be Happy? So you don't want to name it that. And on top of that, you want to make sure that when you go to find a domain name that it's available, number one. And number two, you want one that people are going to remember when they think about your book. So in other words, if you come up with a title and then you end up getting a domain name that doesn't connect to the title, then people are going to have a hard time finding it. That's number one. And the other thing is, they may find it and, they think they're going to find it and they actually stumble onto somebody else's, and so you actually end up sending people to somebody else's book. So you're marketing for somebody else. And so, we don't want to do that, okay? So you want to make sure that the title is unique as well as interesting and easy to remember. Okay. And I got to tell you, I come from songwriting, and that's the whole thing with hooks. What do you think hooks are in songs? It's the same thing. It's got to get into that person's brain, and they can't get it out of their mind. That's why it's called a hook. Okay, but it it can be the same thing with books. You want to have something that's memorable that people can hook onto and easily find. So that's really important. And then the same thing with book covers. Men look at book covers first, women look at titles first, and then they go the other way. So you want to make sure that your book cover is not only interesting and gets their attention, but you want to make sure it doesn't look like a bunch of other books. Okay, because again, you want to stand out from the crowd. You want it to be different. And so another reason you need to do research is you need to see what books are out there in your niche and how people wrote, what people wrote. What did they write about? How did they cover the subject? What are you going to add to the conversation that's different? And sometimes people don't even realize that they're not doing it right or that they're missing the mark. I once had a client who came to me, and he'd already written his book, and we were on Kindle doing some research. I can't remember why. I guess even though he'd already written the book, I always tell people the first thing with me, if you're going to work with me, is you need to go do the research, no matter what stage you're at, because this can change things. So we went and we looked, and I found this other book, and this other book sounded exactly like what was in his book. So I said to him, "Oh my God, this book, sounds like your book." And he said, "Oh, that, he's like the main guy in my niche, but no, my book is totally different than his. Mine has this in it and that in it and the other in it that his doesn't have." And I was like, "Well, I don't get that from your title at all." And so I said to him, you need to change, in his case, it was like you need to change your title so that people get that your book is different than somebody else's, because sometimes you're so close to it that you think it's obvious. And as an outsider, I can see a lot of times that it isn't obvious, that I don't know what's in your book if you don't tell me what's in your book. So that's another reason. And then another reason is when I do research with people for their books, one of the things I look at, and actually I was just doing research this morning for my own book, and there was one phrase that kept coming up over and over and over and over. So do you think, when I put in my keywords and categories for Kindle, that I'm going to use that phrase? Absolutely, I'm going to use that phrase. Luckily you get 7 keywords or phrases, and it says 2 categories, which is really interesting because I've been asking Amazon about this because one of my clients said that she was able to use 3, so I asked them, and they were saying you can go up to 10. I'm going, but when you go into KDP, it says up to 2 categories, so I'm still trying to get them to tell me what that's all about. But I've always known it as 2 categories. But one of the other things that you need to research is the categories, speaking of categories. And what you need to do is you need to make sure that you're getting in the best categories for your book, and that's how you make it a #1 bestseller, assuming that you've now done everything else right, and that's how you sell a lot more books. Okay, and also not just putting them there, but then also getting the reviews, and you continue to market so that there's constantly action going on. But as far as the categories go, I had a client once where I gave her the top 5 categories, and she didn't pick the top 2 for her launch, and she ran into problems. She was at number 2 and she couldn't get to number 1. And when I went back and looked at it, it was because she had not put it in the top 2. She'd put it in like number 1 and number 4 or something like that. So it's really important. Hi, Rebecca. It's really important to make sure that you get it in the top categories for what it is you're trying to do. So as I've just shared, there are a lot of reasons why you need to do the research first. And my Facebook Live just went flying. Hi, Rich. So anyway, so you want to make sure that you have a title that nobody else has. You want to make sure that your cover doesn't look like anybody else's. You want to make sure that your title connects to your audience. You want to make sure that you're using your keywords and your best categories. Okay. You want to make sure that within your title, you're saying exactly what the benefit is of your book, okay, that you're clear about what that is, so that, you know, people who are looking for that thing will find your book and want to buy your book rather than somebody else's. And you want to make sure that you're able to get a domain name that connects to your book. And I have to say, you know, sometimes, especially now, I mean, there's just so many books out there, you know, way more than when I first started. And so a lot of times, you know, you go looking for a title and then you go looking for the domain name and the domain name's taken. And I know, you know, sometimes my clients get really upset with that when I say, well, you needed to get a different title. They're like, oh, I love my title. I'm like, there's always more good titles. And one of the things that I've found is that sometimes when you can't use the one because it's already taken, it actually helps you to get more creative than you were being before. So, you know, you always want to make sure that you get that domain name that's unique, but also connects to your book. So, you know, for instance, if your book is called, I don't know, well, let me just make something up here. The Depression Cure, I'll just say. I don't know if there is one called that or not. The Depression Cure. And then you go and the Depression Cure is taken, then you don't want to call it the Depression Cure, because you're going to be sending traffic to that other person who has a book called The Depression Cure or has a website. And the only time it actually can work is if you find something that's similar to something else, but when you go to the website, it's really a very different topic than what your topic is about. And that's the only time where having the domain name that might sound similar to something else can work. But normally you really don't want to go there. Okay. So, and this is true for everything. So just make sure that, you know, you do the research first. Okay. I know people get enamored with their titles. They get enamored with their ideas. And if you're doing it just to stroke your ego, you know, that's fine. You can write whatever you want to write. But if you're doing it because you want to become a best-selling author, you want to make money, you want to help brand yourself, you want to get your message out to more people, then you need to do the research first, and you need to make sure that all your bases are covered that I've talked about here today, so that you have the best chance to become a best-selling author and to sell a lot more books. So that's all I have to say for today. Let's see, I want to look on my Facebook and see if there were any questions, because for some reason I can never see them on here, and I don't know why that is. So let's see. Anybody talking to me? Anybody have any questions or anything they want to say? Let's see. Okay. Oh, here we are. All right. Oh, Layla, hi. Okay, Rebecca, hi. Hi, Veronica. Yeah, Layla says, like me. Yeah, Layla and I went, Layla's one of my private clients right now. And yeah, we just went through this looking at her book. And we thought we had a title, and then we thought we actually, it actually happened in reverse, because once she thought about her title, she felt it wasn't quite saying what she wanted it to say. And so we actually changed it a little bit, and then we went looking for the domain name, and the first one that we found that we thought was the right one, it was taken, but then it turned out we massaged it just enough where it actually wasn't the right one, and so she was able to get the exact one of her title, so it actually worked out really great. Also, another thing that I didn't mention, and I'll just say this before I go, is that sometimes also people aren't clear about what their book is about, and like in the description that I gave before, it was somebody who knew his book was different, but he didn't say it in his description. But I've also worked with clients where I had a woman who came to me and she already had her book done, and she thought her book was about something, but it really wasn't. It was about something that was connected to it. So, like, let me see if I can give an example with, I never like to out anybody. But, so I'm not sure what I would say to do that. But let's say you had a title and you thought your book was, well, can I use yours, Layla? Maybe I'll use hers since she's already outed herself. So let's say that, well, I don't want to do that either because she hasn't said that I could do that. So I'll do it with mine. So let's say, you've got a book about writing a bestseller, and you've got another book about ebook marketing. Okay, there's another category of one's of bestsellers, one's generalized ebook marketing. And in the title, she made it about ebook marketing when in fact it was about writing a bestseller, for instance. So then when people would go to look for it, they wouldn't find it because they were looking up bestsellers when they really wanted a marketing, an overall book marketing plan. So I mean, they're different, but they're related. So sometimes people just aren't clear about that. And if you're just getting started, the first thing to do, of course, is to do the research. And I know some people are just overwhelmed by the idea of doing this, but I do have a free report that you can pick up at www.kickitwithkindle.com, www.kickitwithkindle.com, to get you started. And then for those people who go through it and decide that they want more help, you can always reach out to me. I help a lot of my clients do the research. That's one of the things that is one of my specialties, and one of the things that I think is the most important. And I think that, I know that it is the most important, and people tell me all the time how grateful they are that they learned how to do this. So anyway, regardless of how you do it, just make sure that you do it if you want to be a best-selling author and make money and not frustrate yourself in the process. So have a great day. Bye-bye.